Hey everyone, as you can tell, I kind of been playing today with a lot of oxides and inks and different things. I have been creating some aged vintage pieces, what I like to call them. And I was thinking last night, I have a lot of truly vintage pieces, so why create more? Well, they're expensive, for one, and for two, I mean, other than it's just really cool to have something that old that's still around, I don't really think, sorry about that, I'm trying to move you closer. I don't really think it's something that I will continue to do unless it's, just a really good deal. But all of these pieces here, I created myself. And I think they look pretty cool. This one I did to kind of mimic the robin's egg blue. If you've ever seen that in a ledger or a letter, it's so pretty. And I pulled a real piece of robin's egg blue ledger. I don't think I have any letters, but I had a ledger. And this one is from 1869. So it's what? 200 and over 250 years old. Is that right? Or no? I don't know. Anyway, it's very old. And I kind of compared it, different colors that I used in it, to this paper. And I don't know if you can see it, but around this paper is really light brown. See that? So I was trying to mimic those things in a real vintage piece. And I think I have an idea of how I want to do that. And then I just tore and I did some, using my distress tapes and things that are not authentic, but it probably would never, blue distress tape would probably never be on a piece of paper. But I also noticed some of my blue tea dyed paper that I did in the summer, that it's called Butterfly Pea, P-E-A-T, and I do think it's in my Amazon storefront, is very close to the blue ledger paper. Very close. I don't know if it's going to show up on camera, but in real life, it's really close. It's not quite as blue, but blue ledger paper comes in many different shades. Here's a lighter one. Look at this one. This one's from, I don't know when it's from. September 21st, but I don't know if that's 1857 or 1957. I don't know. And I don't think it says on any of these sheets, but the point is, look how close it is in color to my blue tea. Very pretty. So I thought we would use some of that to create some aged ephemera. And then also, I was looking at a real letter that's really, this is from 1892. You can see it. I'm sorry about the shine. Well, I'm not going to be able to, 1892. So I was trying to get that color. And I think I know which colors, to me, are the closest. And so far, the brushed corduroy and together with antique linen, or and either by themselves, are really a good look for distressed colors. But when I was making them, I thought to myself, I'm pulling out these old things to see how they compare. And those are just, a drop in the bucket. There are so many true vintage pieces. And I'm sure maybe somewhere in the world there are some pieces that look like this. So it just depends how grungy you want to get, what you want to make it look like. And it's your stuff. You're doing it, whatever pleases you. So I thought we would mess around with some of that today. Won't take long. I'm just going to show you some things that I tried and which ones I like the best. And maybe it will give you some inspiration on, things for you to try. But what started it, I had gotten some new stamps. Couldn't wait to play with them, and I do absolutely love them. These are the stamps. There are a lot of, they look like, this one looks like something from a guest check, and just like maybe checks and ledgers, different things. And I'm really sorry about the glare. I like this. This came from Amazon. It is Global Land Retro Hand. Hand journal, maybe. I don't know. It cuts off, so I'm not really sure the full name. But again, I'm pretty sure it's in my storefront. Do not feel obligated to buy from my storefront. I put those things there so that you'll know what they are, what they look like. I urge you to please find the cheapest, wherever that may be. And then also another thing I did, which I thought was kind of fun, on this piece, I just wrote that. And I got to thinking, you know, all of my stamping and my when I, you know, just pretended to write that is very dark. It's very black. And I thought, you know, over time that probably doesn't look that black. That's not true. The letters and things that I pulled out from the 1800s have a really, I mean, they're still very black. Look at that. They're very bright, vibrant. So, I mean, as far as on the authenticity scale, I think they look really good. No, they would never pass for being real, but, you know, is that really what we're doing in junk journaling? No, we're trying to mimic something. We're trying to make something make something look like something really vintage that I like. These are just some more. I stamped the whole thing on this. This was some tea dyed paper, and this is the whole stamp. So this is what they look like. A little bit of a ledger looking, and I didn't get a good stamp because I was messing around with it. But these dark spots, that is ground espresso, the distress spray. I just dripped it on there. But I did get some brown Rit dye because I had a friend tell me on the comments, and I'm going to tell you who that was because I really, really appreciated it, because she didn't like the smell of coffee. You know, coffee gives that great look, like these business cards that we did. And she said, if you don't like that, the brown Rit dye, if you don't like the smell, the brown Rit dye will work just as well. It gives it that nice color. And I was going to tell you who it was. And would you believe, I know you can believe because I make all these notes and they're never the right notes. Oh, it was Janet, I believe. I believe it was Janet that said, thank you for that, because I did get me some brown Rit. I can't wait to play with it. I need to get me a spray bottle to mix some up because I don't have that yet. But I wanted to say thank you. And I thought we could mess around today with some of these stamps and maybe pretend to make some letters of our own. So I have some just plain white paper here that is just some, they're 8.5 by 11 sheets of copy paper. Just, I don't even think it's a heavy, I think it's 20 pound or maybe just a little bit stronger. Seems like it was 26 maybe, but I'm not really sure. I got it from Amazon. And I'm not pushing the Amazon. I'm truly not. I'm just trying to answer questions that usually come to me in comments, and that way you don't, you know, I'm just trying to be helpful. Okay, so I'm going to use some plain white paper, and then because I know not everybody has blue tea dyed papers, but I am going to use a piece of it just to see what kind of look I get. I'm trying to find one that doesn't really have a stencil on it, because I stenciled a lot of these. I laid stencils on them and got pretty patterns. But one thing that I did that I thought was a lot of fun, if you'll notice on this one, it looks like it has a notary seal. Of course, I don't have one of those, but I took a stamp like this, put it underneath my paper, and then I took a sanding block and went over it. And then I took my ink, you know, because it was raised then. We'll do that on one of these. But I think on this blue one, I'm just going to pretend to make a letter. And I hope I don't really mess this up. Another thing that I found out is any inking or writing or whatever, it was better to do it before I started wrinkling and distressing my paper. It seemed like once I distressed my paper, of course, and I like this, but I got a lot of these kind of marks, you know. They were darker. And I didn't want that as much as I wanted the color. But I tell you what was really neat on this one. Oh, here it is. I took that brushed corduroy, and very lightly rubbed it over this. And doesn't that look like foxing? I mean, on an old book. I just think that's beautiful. I think that turned out really good. You can tell I was just messing around on that one. But so let's just pretend write a fake letter here. And this is the T, blue T. And I think I'm going to stamp a date. And I know for sure, well, yeah, these came from, these are Sampool. And it's Dates from the Past, Part 2. And I just picked a date and stamped it. And I did use the VersaFine Clear because I do find on something that I want it to look, you know, fairly clear, that always seemed to work out the best. So I'm going to pick this something out of here with a date on it. This one's 1772, so we'll use it. And I'm pretty sure I got those Sampools from Amazon too. I know I got the... And I'm not going heavy on my ink. I do want it to show up well, but it doesn't have to be great. You know, if it doesn't... And I also noticed on some of those vintage ones, you know, if you get a bad stamp and it looks a little smeared, good. Because on some of those older ones, they were smeared like that. You know, they write them with, or did write them with, calligraphy pens. And a lot of times there was smearing. Okay, so I'm going to have my hands all inked up. And then I'm going to grab a signature. And I'm pretty sure those came from Sampool as well. I just have different signatures here. So I'm just going to grab one of those. I'll do that at the end. Right now I'm going to act like I'm writing a letter. And I noticed that on all these letters, well, I was unable to read any of them. So you don't, I think, you know, maybe in your head you're going to write something, but you really don't need to write anything. I don't have a deer or whatever, but I'm going to make this one seem like it's a business letter maybe. Okay, so I'm just going to start just making fake words, I guess. And Natasha has good videos on this. She actually calls this writing something. I can't remember the name. But like where in your head you're actually writing something. Like I wrote, I loved going to the movies with you on Saturday. I hope you had a good time too. Does it look like that? No. That's the point. You're just writing it and kind of getting the gist of a real word, but just a lot of loops too. So then I'm just going to do something like that, and I'm going to stamp a signature. And I know this isn't a very long letter, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be. We're just trying to make something that looks old. I don't know. You might be thinking, why are you doing that? I don't know. I just thought it was fun. And I love grungy and vintage and all the things. Well, I don't know if my stamp block's quite big enough for this one. Yeah, it is. Okay. Now I'm going to use my ink again. And I have some Micron pens I probably should have used because I think they would have been more, you know, a darker match than using this. This is just a gel pen from the $1.25 tree. Ugh, that store. Okay. All right. Like I said, this is already really the color of robin's egg blue. So what I'm just going to do is take some of the brushed corduroy and I'm going to lightly go around the edge. And I'm going to do that before I distress it. I want to try doing it before and then maybe some after. But I love using my VersaFine as well because, and to me, now that I'm using it on the blue, the brushed corduroy doesn't seem to be giving it as much of that brown as I like. So I'm going to try something. I'm not going to dab my ink. I'm just going to use what's already there. Ooh, yeah, that's it. Okay, so I did the brush corduroy, and then I just took what was basically left on my sponge from the sepia, and I'm going over that. Now, if I do that by itself, it really looks too dark. So I really need to do around it in the brush corduroy, and then lightly go over it with the rest, and it gives it that brown look that was on our ledger. I don't know why I'm trying to match it. There's really no point. You make what looks good to you. If you like it really dark, and I do, and that's why I use it all the time, I was just going for a specific look on these pieces of ephemera. I really wanted them to resemble old communications of some kind. So that's, you know, and I think we do that, don't we? We like to mimic things, or I do. Maybe it's just me. You all might be thinking, hey, I'm going to use the dark stuff. I'm happy with it, and that's good too, because I use it all the time, and I like it. All right, so that looks really, really good. So now I'm going to beat this up. I love that terminology. I think it was Stella that used that, and I loved it when she was talking about my ephemera that I wasn't really crazy about because it was so bright. She said, beat it up. All right. Okay, so now I'm just going to make some wrinkles. And I'm not really going to go hard on it like I did this one where I really crumpled it up. I think I'm just going to, you know, do some light things just to mess it up a little bit. I will say, I said it in my other video too, I don't iron clothes. I guess I only iron paper, and I really like it. I did iron those 3 that I showed you. When I got done with them, I ironed them, and I liked it. I like how they come out. Put that distress in there, and then you just iron it a little bit. And what you could do, how I got the blue color, if you don't have the blue tea dye, I used, oh, speckled egg. That's what I used, speckled egg. And I did it with a brush. And I may do it a little bit on this one. Actually, I didn't use a brush because this was almost dried up. So I just, ooh, that ain't what I wanted. That's okay. Because I crinkled it. See, when I crinkle it, it automatically gives it some dark. But if you do it while it's smooth, you can go over it. Now, this isn't going to work because my paper's all crinkled. But I still like having it a little bit darker in spots. So that's okay. I'm going to do that. I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop with that. But this is the color I used. Let me show you on a flat piece of paper. And that looks like foxing. And that comes from this. This is like cloth, so it gives you those dots. But that's the blue that I used on the other piece. So I'm going to put my seal here. I don't know that you'd have a seal just to write somebody a letter, but who knows, you might. Okay, so I put it underneath. Use my sanding pad. I really got down in where those dates were. If it tears, that's fine too. All right. So then you can kind of see it. And then I just went over it. And I'm going to use my brush for this because I don't want it real dark. Went over it with my ink. This time I'm going to use this blue speckled egg. Ooh. Yep, I'm loving it. To get my seal to show up. Doesn't that look neat? I love this. So I'm not going to add any more color to this because I love the blue that it already is. I think the brown around the edge looks great. So I'm happy with this. I will iron it and just be tickled as punch. And that's just going to be a really cool piece of ephemera to add to a journal. I am going to iron it. Did I talk funny? Iron it. And then it's going to be more flattened out like this. And even though I did, you know, wrinkle this pretty good, It looks great. I think I did wrinkle that one. I know I wrinkled this one. Look at all the wrinkles in it. And I just have a few wrinkles in this one, but I like it. I think it's a cool piece of ephemera. So let's do something on that looks like this one. I like this one. This really does look like aged letters, or I think it would be neat to do this on a brand new book page. I don't say brand new because normally you wouldn't tear up a brand new book, but a book page, like a lot of times, they're old and they're going to be destroyed, but they're not yellowed. So I think that using the brushed corduroy like this how I did it. I mean, I'm barely got any pressure on there. And the reason I'm only putting a little bit is if you put too much pressure, because this is a really inked pad, it'll end up looking like a square. Mm, like there. You see my squares on this one? I pressed down too hard on that. But on the back, where I had this boxing, I was just barely pressing on it. So that's what I'm trying to do now. It's just, I mean, as light as I possibly can. I'm running that across. It's really kind of hard because it's a really fresh inked one. But you'll get a lot of spots like that because of this cloth that's on here. So then I'm just going to take my brush, put a little bit more, and I'm just going to go across it. I'm going to color the whole thing with this. And then those spots will stand out a little bit better. But like I said, didn't do a very good job. There's still some lines in this one. That's okay. I mean, I'm still going to use it, and it's still going to look really cool. Actually, I could have stamped it first, I guess, before I started coloring the whole thing. We can still stamp it now. Let's do that. Let's stamp it with something. Oh, I want to use. Let's do this received one. I did find out another thing about myself. It was better, instead of laying it on top and doing this, because I would move it every time, was for me to leave it laying flat after I inked it up. It was better for me to leave it laying flat like this, because I'm so shaky, and then put my paper on top of it and just do it like that. That way I got a better print that way. And so on the bottom of this one, I'm going to put a different one because I'm going to tear this, and I'll end up with two sheets or two pieces of ephemera. I might just do this check looking thing right here. And I don't ink it real dark. I mean, I just, you saw how much I did there, not a lot. And then I pick up my paper and go across it like this. And I do have a Tim Holtz, the magic thing where you can keep stamping. I'm not good at that either. I love that thing, but it does not love me. I'm going to work on it, though, because that's the thing. It takes practice, and I need to learn to take the time to practice on it. Do you see that? I almost rubbed the whole thing with black ink. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my brush corduroy and put more on this. And I didn't do it just then, but when you fill up your brush, if you pull it from here on, you won't wind up with big splotches. I like the big splotches because to me they remind me of foxing in a book, and I don't mind it. So I just lay it down and start doing it. But if you don't want that, start from the outside and drag it in, and you won't get as many of those spots. But I do think, for myself, the brushed corduroy was the color I liked the best, which made me happy because I've had that brushed corduroy a really long time, and I really didn't like how it inked edges. I wasn't crazy about it. So now I've found a way to use it, and that's great because I don't like to waste my things. I tell you one that I still haven't fell in love with or found a real use for, and that is the tea dye distress oxide. It just looks like CoverGirl makeup to me no matter what I do. I just keep thinking of that liquid makeup. That's what it, which, you know, that's good on your face. I don't want it on my paper. Okay, so now I'm going to distress it a little bit. I also go around the edges. I like doing this and just crinkling them up. And if they tore, that was even better. I was fine with them tearing. Just, I don't have one of those Tim Holtz things that, you know, make your page edges look distressed. So you can do it with your fingernails. You could also take the edge of your scissors and do something like this. I like this, and I do this a lot, but I just was trying different things. Because if this doesn't work, you go out back over it with your car. I wonder, you know, that's bound to look good, right? Because I was joking, but seriously, something like that. I'm going to tear that one. I love it. And just because I like that vintage sepia, I like the darker, I'm going to go around this with that. Especially where I've tore it. I really want to get in there with that. I also took some of that before, and I would just go over it lightly in circles and give it a darker color if I wanted something like that. But I was kind of going for the more actual vintage pieces on this. And of course, I just rent it, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Now, because I want to see what it looks like, I'm going to go over that dark with some brushed corduroy to see what kind of look it gives me. If it turns it yellowy, or if it just might be better to do the brushed first, then another good color to get that dark is the, let's just pull it out and I'll show it to you. This one is a good one to put on something that's lighter, like that brushed corduroy, and then come in with your Stays On. It gives it a neat color. That Stays On brown, timber brown, looks more burnt, like you took a lighter or something to it. I love that look. Man, I like that. So pretty. And then another one I was going to show you. And I'm going to stamp this one first. I'm just going to line them up next to my paper so that I'm for sure got enough room. And then I'm just going to lay my paper on the top. Again, it doesn't seem like it moves as much if I do it this way. You just kind of find the way that works best for you. On this one, I'm going to end up tearing this. And I'll ink around that as well. Maybe tear down where it looks more like a piece of ephemera. And I'll ink around those edges too. And it's just going to look really neat. Really neat. But on this one, I'm going to show you what the vintage linen looks like. I'm going to just use my brush. And at first, actually, you can do this too. It's a good one to do this with, because you can push on this one a little bit harder because it's so light. It'll give you that good foxing on it too. Find the way that works best. This one must not have a lot of juice in it, or maybe it does, and that's just the way it shows. Hoping you can see this good. because it does give it a really nice color, and it is very close to the handwritten letters that I have. I really like that. And this one is, what I say, antique linen. I was hoping that I had some of the liquid, you know, the spray, because I wanted to try that, but I don't. So I would do that. I would get some of that too and see what kind of look you get. Now, I have old paper, but I wasn't crazy about that. I thought that one looked more green. But as you can see where I've got some spots, it gives it a really neat foxing look. Now I'm going to take my brushed corduroy and I'm going to tear these pieces. I don't know if I'm going to tear it or not, or leave it all as one. I like it the way it looks. And go around the edge and just see what kind of look we get. It's a little bit yellowy for me, so I'm going to take my sepia and go over it just a little bit. I like more. I know this doesn't really look authentic because it's a little too dark, but I still like this better. I like that edging. And then, you know, I might take my deckled edge and do like that. Another fun thing to do, and I'm sure I'm not showing you anything you don't already know, but another fun thing to do is to take your sanding pad and just wear out some spots. I like to do that too. I like to make holes in it and then tear it up with my finger. I like that. And then take some of that and go over it. I like that. I like that look. And then sometimes I like taking my homemade tape, you know, my distress tape, like this, and putting a piece on there. But I made this video to tell you, you know, play around. You don't have to have it perfect. It doesn't have to be, you know, if somebody tells you, oh, well, that doesn't look real, well, who cares? It looks neat. It's cool, right? So do it. Do what makes you happy. And this makes me happy. Put a little piece of tape there. Doesn't that look neat? I love that. I love this whole thing of, like I said, I have real pieces too, and I do put those in my journals because I think they're just super cool to be able to hold a piece of paper that is that old. But I also think that, you know, some of the amounts are crazy that you pay for that stuff. So, you know, find a good deal, latch on to it. If you don't find a good deal and you don't want to spend the money, we can always create our own. And that's what I was hoping this would inspire you to make your own. Or at least have fun and play with some things. I love these. I hope you do. I hope you will find inspiration from this video. And I thank you so much for watching. And I hope you like these. This one, I forgot to tell you. This one, I just used my script stamp, the one I'm always using. And if I had just stamped it right in the middle, like a letter, I think it would have looked really good. But I just was stamping to see what, you know, the different shades of color, how much I needed to put on there. I think that I should have just let it be dark, stamped it in the middle, you know, and used it like that. Maybe made a half sheet of paper versus a whole one. But I really love this Robin's Egg Blue. I hope you do. I hope you like these. Anyway, as I was saying, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.